you, Lord Christ.
Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you. You gals, almost as loud as you do when I fall. Please be seated. We're going to see how this goes. Is it on? I don't know. Okay. Because we only have one mic, when you have one Madonna mic, and this one. So we're splitting today. So first of all, I would like to welcome Melissa, the Reverend Melissa George. It is her last Sunday with us here in the Diocese of West Missouri before she takes a call in Colorado. So she's actually already a priest in the Diocese of Colorado. But I begged her, and she agreed to come with us for our last Sunday with her. So she was presiding for me today. When I originally asked her, I said, would you preside and preach or whatever? And she said, yeah, I'll preside, but I won't preach. And I said, okay, fine. And now, ta-da! In retrospect, that was probably a really good decision because it is not easy to preach today. So it is Mother's Day. It's also post our discussion about the Supreme Court's decision possibly to reverse Roe v. Wade. So my daddy, who is a politician, he always said to me, now Maggie, if you're a good leader, no one will ever be always happy with you and no one will ever be always mad at you. Everyone should be uncomfortable and loved. So, I'm going to offend everybody, but I'm going to love you all, so hopefully it's okay. All right, so this Sunday is frequently called the Good Shepherd Sunday, and it's always this Sunday. So let's talk about shepherds, shall we? Because I think that can help us. So clergy this week, because I'm on, would you believe this, clergy boards and things where clergy talk. I do sometimes hang out with other clergy. It's rare, but it happens. There were all sorts of discussions this week. So you should preach on Mother's Day because God is the ultimate mother. Accurate. You should not preach on Mother's Day because some people have terrible relationships with their mothers. Some people want to be mothers and can't be, and so it's a difficult, triggering topic. Also accurate. You should preach about Roe v. Wade because women are losing their rights. You should also preach about Roe v. Wade because abortion is evil and it's killing and murderous. And would you believe even the Pope, there's a papal bull that says that the ultimate gift a mother can give is to die for her children. Yeah, and papal bulls work so the papal bulls are official words that the Pope says while sitting in the chair of St. Peter. So they are said with great authority. I want one of those chairs. But anyway, so I'm going to tell you, as a mother, when I was dying in labor, I was bleeding to death, and potentially my child was dying. Many of you are around for the birth of my second child. Sorry, it's really hard. It's really hard for me to move and use a mic. Okay, so when I was giving birth to Caroline, and I was dying, I was bleeding to death, I did not think to myself, this is the ultimate gift to give to my child. I didn't think that. In fact, so the room was full of people. So when you start to bleed to death, they pull a code. I didn't realize this until later when they were running a test and they pulled a code as a test. And all of the hospital, the NICU, everybody starts freaking out. And I said, wow. And they said, yeah, that happened when you gave birth. I was like, oh, that's nice. So everybody runs in. So I'm in the OR. There's a lot of screaming going on because when you give birth, that's the only time that you have intense surgery that they let you be awake for, like straight out of the Aztecs, letting you watch them rip out your heart. Yeah, that's kind of what a C-section is like. And so there's lots of screaming. There's arguing with the blood bank. There's all this stuff going on. And this poor little anesthesiologist is delightful old man. He's sitting next to me, and he's holding my hand because my husband can't be there because he's left in the room counting bloody sheets, right? And I'm thinking all this stuff is going on, and I finally said, is my baby going to be okay? Yeah, we're going to be able to save the baby. The baby's going to be fine. Am I going to be okay? Because what I'm thinking is not what the Pope said. Because old guys who believe in celibacy have a lot to say about motherhood, I've noticed. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to die, and I'm going to leave my husband with an almost 3-year-old and a 28-week baby that's in the NICU. Please, God, I cannot die. I cannot do that. And God and a whole bunch of really, really good doctors. So we're all fine. The baby's fine, I'm fine. We're all fine. So, people have a lot of strong opinions on these topics, right? Right? And so there's all sorts of stuff on social media about what we're supposed to preach today. And I guarantee everyone's going to be upset. There's just no good way to do it. Except for the gospel. Isn't it crazy how God is so good at that? Like, we get sucked into all sorts of stuff, and then it's like, hello, the gospel. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to hear the voice of the shepherd. And that's what we need to hear today from our gospel. There is so much noise in our world, right? So much noise. And we can all agree that life is sacred, right? We can all agree that life is sacred. And we can all agree that human rights are so very, very important. We can all agree on those things. But when we get sucked into these arguments that are ridiculous about things, they're just extremes, right? I was at a concert this weekend. When we're in big groups, we say ridiculous things, right? And so I was at a concert, and somebody screamed, abortions are great, everyone should get one. Well, no, but I think we're so reactive, right? Because there are also trigger laws right now that agree with the Pope. So if this gets turned over, women aren't allowed to get them for any reason, barring you being able to prove that you're going to die right now. We can all agree that life is sacred, right? And we can all agree that that's insanity. Papal bulls that say the best gift that you can give to your kids is to die is probably not something that we all agree with, right? And we can all agree that motherhood is a sacred, wonderful thing, and it's also hurtful and painful and triggering for many people. We can all agree on that, right? Because when we do this, when we listen to the shepherd, it's different than all this noise that you and I hear all the time. And that's what Jesus is saying to us. Listen to the shepherd. It's hard. It's hard to do that, isn't it? Because there's so much noise. We're so busy, and it's so chaotic, and there's so much noise, right? Not just me. Not just me. Okay. Because sometimes I'm like, is it just me? And so you're probably asking, but how? Because we all have important things to do, right? We're busy. And we get in groups, and we feel really strongly about these things, and that's good. I want us to feel strongly and passionately, because where that is, that's God. And it's important to feel strongly and passionately about things, but it's also important to listen to the shepherd. So I believe that sheep are a great example of humans. Now, if you know me, you know that I adore animals, especially things with fur. Mammals, oh my gosh, love them. Love sheep. I had a pet goat growing up. I like goats even better. But sheep are a great image for humans. I love sheep as an image for humans. And it's because it's mildly offensive and yet accurate. Sheep are stupid. And they're delightful. Okay, so they're herd animals. What? Goats are even better, because goats literally do not care. They're just living their best life. They don't care if you care or not. Sheep are better than goats. They are herd animals, and they will do sometimes what you tell them to do. But it depends on who they're listening to. So sheep will listen to their shepherd. They might listen to the border collie that is hurting them. They also might listen to each other and jump over walls or fences, or they might get distracted while they're eating and wander off and be like, oh! They sometimes get, so they wander off, and they get stuck in the brambles, and then the shepherd has to come and, like, dig them out. And then sometimes they're, like, wandering. They're like, oh, what's that over there? And so they wander over, and it's a wolf. But it's a little too late. A hungry wolf. I mean, what wolf isn't hungry if there's a sheep nearby, right? Humans are the same way. We're literally the same. We're really dumb. And we follow things. We follow all sorts of things. So sometimes we follow good things, like hopefully God's commands to us, and sometimes we follow really dumb things like social media. And it just depends, right? And we sometimes wander into brambles, which I think of as kind of emotions. Like we're just eating. Emotions are good, neutral, all important, right? But sometimes we get stuck in them. We get stuck in the brambles, and we can't get out of those emotions. I'm thinking of like grief or sadness, depression, anxiety, the things that we worry about. We get stuck in those brambles. There's nothing wrong with those feelings, right? They're delicious. The brambles are delicious, but when you get stuck in them, it's a problem. We also are really curious about things, and then we're like, oh, that seems like a good thing to consume or do. And we go sneaking, oh, that is interesting. I like that little sheep over there. And then suddenly it's a wolf, right? We all have those things. I think of things like addictions and violence and feeling really, really strongly about something, so much so that you start to hate other people. Yeah, that's the wolf. And so I love this image because when all these things are going on and there's all this chaos, the sheep are wandering, right? You and I are wandering. We're wandering all over the place. We're curious about everything. And we're ignoring the shepherd. It's not until you and I find the calm and the quiet and the peace that we can listen and actually hear the voice of the shepherd. And you're probably thinking, how do we do that? Because life is chaotic, right? I mean, that's literally how I am. How do I do that? I've got a lot of stuff going on. How do I listen? And how do I discern what is the shepherd and what is me? And that's hard too, right? Anyone else ever struggle with discerning what is my opinion and what is God's? I struggle with that all the time. So I ask us this week to take that challenge on. Find your peace. How I do that, and I was talking to somebody else. So I live in the suburbs, like the most suburban ever, right? I am not that way. I'm a country kid. In fact, my calling was out in the woods. So I am a trees outside green person, and I don't live in that. But I don't have back neighbors. In fact, my house backs up to like a creek and some kind of wooded areas, but my neighbors aren't like directly either side of me, right? So I sit on the steps down from my deck because the banisters on either side block my view. And then I can pretend. I pretend that I just kind of zone out, right? And I find that calm and peace. That's one of my go-to places to pray. In fact, my husband frequently will come out and we have this expensive patio that we put in and all these chairs everywhere, and you're sitting on the steps. What are you doing? Why did I waste money on all this stuff? And I'm like, oh. But I ask you to find that place for yourself. It may be that. It may be in your commute when it's just you. Now, be careful driving, too. But it might be that for you. It might be working with your therapist. And y'all know I'm a strong believer that we all need a counselor because everybody needs someone to just talk to. I know. That's right. But find that for yourself. Find that for yourself. Get to that place where you can listen, like really, truly listen to the quiet and the silence, because it is in that. It is in that we will find the shepherd. It's not in all the chaos. and all the noise. And there's so much noise and so much busyness. And so easy to get sucked into it. What? Busyness is totally a word. I just said it. I'm like Shakespeare. Sometimes I make up my own words. I'm like Dr. Seuss. Okay, so I challenge you this week. Find your calm, because it is your calm and your shepherd that will help you with your brambles and your wolves. Ooh, I cannot preach like that, y'all. Ooh. Here. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.